and welcome to Games Soup with Chloe and Kayla. This is a game design podcast where we throw ideas in a pot and see what's cooking. I'm Kayla, and Chloe is back from aircon.
I survived.
You got like food poisoning, right? Did you say?
Yes, so as I said last week, my parents came to the con, and so they decided, let's go out for dinner on Saturday night. So we went to this really quite nice restaurant, which was in like their hotel. And so I had this gorgeous burger, one of the best burgers I've had in my life, and then I had terrible sleep the entire night, and was sick and other parts on the Sunday morning. And it was like, oh my God, are we actually going to get to the con on this Sunday? But I managed to pull myself together enough to like drive for 40 minutes to the convention with several stops on the way to have a breather of fresh air. It was a nightmare. And that wasn't even the worst part of the con. So
I've never... This maybe sounds surprising unless you know me and know my diet, and then you're like, oh yeah, no, that makes sense. I've never had food poisoning in my life.
Well, you have a very controlled diet and you know what you put into you.
Yeah, there's not really many... Like, I feel the only way for me to get food poisoning is if someone actually poisoned my food, which I feel is not usually referred to as food poisoning.
Yeah, that's just poisoning.
That's just regular poisoning. The food was the vehicle. But yeah, there's very little I eat that can go off. But what was the worst part of your con, if you want to?
It turns out Aircon is a convention for playing games, not selling them. Lol. It was probably good as a punter, but as a seller, it was not a goer. We made about our table and our pebble fare back, and that was about it.
At least you weren't out of pocket in the end.
We were almost out of pocket until the final day, so...
Which, yeah, that is a rough one. I feel... Because it makes sense to me why the conventions that are mainly focused around playing are like, we would like to get more sellers in here. But I do just feel... I think being the first people out is just so hard.
It feels like, oh yeah, we'll get some sellers in and they'll pay for the rest of it, you know? Like... It's like we were opposite Traveling Man, who were like sponsoring the convention, and it's like we thought we were going to get lots of eyes on us from people wandering on the Traveling Man stall, and then looking over and seeing our bright pink stuff, but it just didn't convert. We had lots of nice conversations, but then we also had lots of, so what are you guys selling, comics? No, they're role-playing games. Oh, what's that then? You know Dungeons and Dragons? Oh yeah. Sort of like that, but not quite. Okay.
I do think for your games, if someone says what's a role-play game, I don't think... Like, Dungeons and Dragons is maybe helpful to explain it, but I don't think it's helpful to then segue them into, would you be interested in trying this out? Because you then have to go backwards down to...
I was generally pitching them as collaborative storytelling games. Half of ours use someone telling the story and your characters in it. The others, it's a collaborative experience. But yeah, I mean, if you have to spend your 8 seconds of first impressions explaining the concept, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I occasionally will do a thing when I'm pitching to people like that, where I really, and it's partly unintentional, but it's partly me just trying to not give them extraneous information they don't need to decide whether they want to buy or not. And I kind of end up making it sound like I invented role-playing games.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sounds rough. Did you have any bright spots on the con?
Yeah, I mean, Alyssa got inspired and wrote like 90% of an RPG on the con floor, so look forward to that soon, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope they don't wash it off before, the next con. Do you want to tell us about it, or because it's Alyssa's game, are you like, nah?
I'll let her cook it a bit more, because it might not. I know I tend to jinx games by talking about them before they're ready, so...
Away from Aircon, exciting news. At the time you, dear listener, are tuning into this, my jousting game, the Gallant and the Virtuous, is now out digitally.
Whoa.
You can go to my itch, it's ratwavegamehouse.itch.io. See it there for like $15. It includes, all of the rules around jousting, time passing, playing scenes, and a sort of like, it's funny because I put this on the page now. I'm like, this does take a lot of inspiration from Belonging Outside Belonging games, and I name specific ones. While also like, it can't reasonably be referred to as a BOB or even no dice, no masters. There's dice. Dice are all over it. But I think it's a really good game. So check that out. I'll probably do a physical release sometime before, I'd say, UKGE, if I end up doing...
You don't want to promise too much for Norwich, but...
Norwich is after UKGE. It'll definitely be out by Norwich.
Oh, well then, Cult of Adventure then, I guess.
Yeah, that's the one where I'm like, I'm unsure if I'm doing El Hijo de Dragon Meat, but if I am, there's a chance I print it, because it is ready to be printed. It's just, I guess, settling the economics of something. I always feel... I sometimes, when I have, like... Because here's the thing. I wrote most of this project, I want to say, start of 2025. So, like, it was done in a draft formation before the Mech Ridder backer kit went out. But I always feel slightly guilty when I have other stuff that's nominally outstanding and I'm releasing something unrelated. But I'm also like, it was done. It was done already.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on other people releasing that shit. That's not on me.
Well, I'm done, like, the Mech Ridder stuff, that's more like, there's a pace on that. I have been working on that. We're on schedule there. And then I also have a thing coming up for Orbital Blues Month with stations, which that's not, like, outstanding. Like, I have work to do on that. And so to some extent, it's me worrying my, like, employer essentially will be like, what? When were you doing this? And then I can just be like, ages ago, mainly.
Yeah,
mainly.
Definitely wasn't doing it in your time. Nope.
Well, I wasn't really, is the thing. Like, I bounce around. Also, it's a thing, like, I got a lot of this finished because it was me swapping to doing layout, which is a nice break from writing for me. Like, they're not... Like, I can do more work if that work is both writing and layout in the same day, whereas I can only do, I think, so much amount of writing or layout by itself. But, check that out. I don't yet know if I'm going to be at Dragon Meat 2, but I plausibly might be.
Cross fingers.
Yeah. It's a very... I really like Dragon Meat 2.
Is that what we're calling it?
I always call it loads of different things. I love to keep saying El Hijo de Dragon Meat.
What does that mean?
Son of Dragon Meat. The son of Dragon Meat.
I was going to say Dragon Meat Junior was going to be my pitch, but...
Yeah, I know that, and I will confess, I have no idea how my Spanish pronunciation is there. There's every chance in the world it's quite terrible. It might be more supposed to be like Alijo de Dragon Meat.
Good enough for white people.
It's a thing. I know a large array of stray Spanish terms from my shallow Lucha Libre knowledge. And so a lot of wrestlers who are the son of people, or either just have gimmick that will be called something like, so, there is a wrestler who is the son of the original, well, he's actually the nephew of the original Rey Mysterio, and he's El Hijo de Rey Mysterio. The Rey Mysterio is actually Rey Mysterio Jr.
What? Oh my god.
Yeah, oh man, I should tell you about all of the identities of Mystico and Sin Cara one day. That's like a fun little...
But all versions of The Undertaker are the original, I assume.
There have been fake Undertakers, but yeah, that's it. Gimmick handoffs are less a thing in American and British wrestling. There's a bit of it in Japanese wrestling with, like, there's been 4 tiger masks. But it is more common with masked wrestlers especially.
Yeah.
But there's occasionally a thing where you get an imposter wrestler, which is a bit different than, like, the gimmick handed over, or being someone too. WWE rarely does it because Vince McMahon, notorious sex trafficker and vile man, notorious credibly accused sex trafficker, just to stop us getting lawsuited.
Because he listens every week.
Oh, well, I mean, he's not got much else going on. He apparently really hated the name Junior, which I've heard lots of people say is this weird psychological thing. It's because, like, he was the second Vince McMahon, but he wasn't officially a junior. He had a different middle name, and he hated when people called him that. So, like, the reason you only know Rey Mysterio Jr. as Rey Mysterio is because, like, they were like, you can't be a junior. Juniors are boys.
Yeah, it does sound like I'm kids Rey Mysterio.
I mean, yeah, it's a more fashion. Anyway, that's why I just sometimes call it by an array of names rather than Call to Adventure. So I've said Dragon Meat 2, I lead you to Dragon Meat Jr.
Well, go on then. You're releasing Gallant and the Virtuous this week. Do you think there's a hack in it for wrestling?
My gut says no, but actually I will talk about like the thing I find quite interesting about the Gallant and the Virtuous, about like the way it's structured. So I think this was the pitch we decided on that episode. A lot of that game from that original episode is how I kind of thought it would be, other than that I think at the time we had the word flight, so that was in, and then I ditched that because I was like, it's an extra hat. But like, so it involves you meeting up at jousting tourneys separated by years, and you're rolling stuff that happens in between those years. And your characters are people who don't really meet outside of those occasions. I was watching a stand-up work in progress recently by a comedian called Grace Jarvis. He was talking a bit about the Fringe, the Edinburgh Fringe there. I was joking, like, do other professions have this thing? Do doctors have a thing where they're all going to the same place and then they're deciding who they're going to hook up with? And the thing is, like, RPGs kind of have that, though.
Yeah,
like,
TPGA, yeah.
Conventions are kind of that. Obviously, there are more conventions. Well, actually, there are other fringes. So that's kind of a thing. Like conventions, the Fringe. It's got stuff with Olympics. Like, I'm interested in the relation. Like, I have people I would very much consider friends in RPGs who I will see 3 times a year at certain conventions.
Yeah.
And so every time I see them, I'm sort of learning about what's happened to their life. And obviously we live in a world where it's like, oh yeah, I guess the last time I saw you, there was, the state of war was different.
There was a pandemic on, yeah.
Yeah, like, and I think I would not say that the Gallant and the Virtuous is a allegory for like conventions or the Fringe or COVID or geopolitics, but it's got some like resonance with that stuff. So I do think you could move it. I think you could move the sort of like structure quite nicely and the doom and fortune thing. And I think if you then have some kind of competition where someone could die, you can translate it. But I think wrestling is a bad matchup for the way the jousts are decided, because that's a rock, paper, scissors. It's a very sort of test of nerves. And also wrestling is fake, which is another thing. Like the option of you like actually competing.
Play with the kayfabe, like everything you're doing is kayfabe, but then in between you could do like backstage deals and like arguments and stuff.
I think you could really add loads of the gimmicky bullshit of wrestling. But I think you should then add it to a different sport. Either sticking with jousting, like if you're just playing a game of this, you don't even need to hack it here. You could just be like, can we make Knights a bit wrestler coded? Like, yeah. Instead of Sir, could they get a luchador mask and stick that on? And can that be other? I think you could do that really fun. Or I could think you could wrestlingize other sports that are real. You could definitely do a version of boxing that's less, because boxing often can end in like 3 hits. And like plausibly, I think the interesting comparison then to like stand up and RPGs though is like those things are not officially competitions.
No, but
it's the thing. Like obviously, some people like you don't want to go in and see everyone as like a massive rival to any kind of artistic scene. That's it's just like bad for your own mindset.
Yeah, it's kind of too
prevent you from like maybe making relationships. But with that said, it is true that you can't all succeed to the same extent, especially when you are grabbing from the same audience who only have so much money to spend.
Yeah.
In the Fringe, it's like awards can only be won by individuals in this certain way. And like, I think stand-up does a better job of acknowledging that. I think sometimes RPGs, like, people who, I'm not like gonna name it, but I feel sometimes people invent reasons to dislike someone to feel more justified, when it's like, nah, you just dislike that they sell more of you and you think you should sell more than them.
J-Dragon.
Oh, as in that's how people feel about
That's
Jay.
how people feel about
definitely
J-Dragon.
true.
No, I love Jay. But
yeah, I'm like, I'm going to clarify this, Chloe, because I know what you meant, but just
yeah.
But no, yeah, that's definitely how people feel about Jay. And I more mean even in people I've known individually. And I'm sort of like, I think if you just acknowledge the truth that, yeah, it is a little bit competitive. And you can be really happy for other people who you like and are friends with, but often there's times where it's like, fuck, man, I wish I got that instead of that.
Yeah, to be fair, anytime I see somebody making a sports anime RPG, I'm like, no, that's our thing. You can't do that. You can't do this entire genre of medium. We did that first.
Yeah. I've definitely sometimes seen like runaway success Kickstarters where I've been like, fuck, man, why didn't that happen to me instead of you? And like, I think if I then went, no, I now need to invent a reason in my head why the fact that this Kickstarter did well is the artistic decline of RPGs, rather than going like, no, I'm just mad. I'm just mad because I wish
it's the fall of the West's fault.
Was better. I wish I was more acclaimed or more successful than I am. And I think I also, maybe I have a good perspective about this because I can acknowledge that like success at things like cons and success at things like a Fringe festival and stuff are far more about how you are selling.
Yeah, it's connections and advertising. It's not like the quality of your thing might not matter. Like you could have written the best thing since sliced bread, but if it's on like A4 paper without a cover, nobody's going to look at it, you know?
Yeah, and so it's a thing of like, I think sometimes it's a useful thing if I am feeling like envious or jealous of like something more successful. I can be like, but their success doesn't mean their thing is better than mine. My lack of success doesn't mean it's worse, because there is a disconnect between the sort of not quite zero sum, but like limited resource grabbing game and what that means about like actual quality or whatever. We've talked about games. We're on topic, I would say.
Yeah, I've pitched a game about wrestling.
Yeah, but yeah, so I think like you can hack Gallant and Virtuous in those ways or whatever. But I don't know. It's interesting. I kind of feel of it because of the way I'm saying it's like, oh, it's BOB-esque without actually being a real game. It feels adjacent in style.
What do you mean by that? Like, it's...
I think the approach to how scenes work is very belonging outside belonging. And then you don't have like strong and hard moves, strong and weak moves and stuff.
Yeah.
But the way you're like, you have a doom and fortune tally. Like the doom decides who's going to die, and the fortune decides what kind of epilogue you get if you survive. And like those get marked and triggered in similar ways to like gaining and losing tokens in belonging outside belonging games.
Okay.
And the approach to sort of GM-less roleplay takes from that. It's just then intercepted with these scenes with a different kind of, story-focused mechanic in the jousting scenes, and then is interrupted with the fact that you are rolling stuff for time and tourneys.
Yeah.
And so it feels a bit hybrid-y, I guess, or whatever. But
I think you could say it's like descended from BOB, but it isn't like exactly a BOB game. Yeah,
the reason I put the acknowledgements on the page, like the itch page that I've set up, isn't because I was like... was more because I was like, I want to credit this in describing the game, but like, this isn't necessarily going to be in marketing speak or stuff, because I often don't lean on other system things in marketing stuff. I guess I've just not found it like so successful or whatever for me.
Yeah.
So, but oh, actually, here's a thing we could anticipate around, because this was a joke I made either on Tumblr or another social media. Because I have written 2 belonging outside belonging games properly, To Embrace a Swamp Creature, and Psycho Dungeon. And they're kind of like companion games in a way. They're like part of a spiritual duology at this point, where it's like
you've said
To Embrace
before,
a Swamp. Yeah, To Embrace a Swamp Creature is very much about where I grew up in Essex. It's about a small town and mental health and growing up, and it's about your early 20s and friendship. Whereas Psycho Dungeon is kind of about your late 20s. It's about a city. It's about work and work colleagues.
Yeah.
And so I've sort of joked. I think the joke I made on Tumblr is like, so I can't really make another Belonging Outside Belonging game until I'm
early 30s.
Until it's gonna be about my 30s. Like, what would it be if we were just trying to like pitch for completion? Because I'm like, okay,
so it has to be about being an outsider or sort of a freak figure.
Or at least
tetralogy. Yeah.
There is part of me that does sometimes think, is Psycho Dungeon really about belonging outside belonging in the same way? It's definitely part of that system, and it's like no dice, no masters. But I'm like, you're not entirely outside of the belonging, but I think you are alienated from your sense of belonging via capitalist circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, alienation is the main thing. It's like Goblin Country. You have a community, but you are still alienated as an outsider.
Why? But I think that's the thing. I think often belonging outside belonging, like you're alienated as an outsider, but you are in your own outsider community as well.
Yeah.
Whereas here I'm like, you're alienated, but more to a point of like atomized isolation. I think it still counts totally. But it's like, so it would be about early 30s. And then I'm like, if you're flipping other things, like if Swamp Creature is about friends and Psycho Dungeon is about work, what is the 30-cent game about? Is it like family, lovers?
See, my head went straight to political organization, but
that's that would not be about my life, which is obviously a thing which which my belonging outside belonging games always are. Which is also the problem with doing family, I guess, because I assume the point when I say family would probably be about like, oh, and now is the 30-cent game about building a family, and then it's like, I'm not gonna be that person in the same way.
I guess there's like, you don't want it to be like, oh, here's the game where you play as a nuclear family, but
it's also it would just be ridiculous because that's not my circumstances. But it's like, how are you moving away from? I guess it could be about friends again, but in a very different way, because Swamp Creature was incredibly cynical about friendship. It was very much about interrogating friendships where it's like, you are friends because you have been together for this long time.
Because of circumstance,
if you didn't already, and like, it's a game many ways about the question of, if you didn't already know each other, would you even like each other?
Yeah.
And I think in some ways the arc of Swamp Creature is driving you towards like moving away from people. Whereas, is this 30-cent game more about like the friends you choose? Or is it more about maybe it's about maintaining friendships in your 30s?
Yeah.
The thing that everyone is always saying is really hard.
Yeah, in my head I kind of thought of an idea for like a game where you're all like Hammer Horror, insert generic monsters here, and you're all living together, sort of in a, what was it, True Blood? Was that the show?
True Blood was a show.
Being Human is the one I'm thinking of.
That makes more sense. Yeah, I mean, like, flat shares are so 30s coded now.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, you've got to deal with people's humanity, as it were, while also dealing with your own shit. And it's like, oh, can I stand to be around these people? Yes, because I want to put the effort in. Or no, because, they're hurting me being around or whatever. And it's like, I don't know.
I do wonder, maybe there is something to, Swamp Creature's about the town, Psycho Dungeon's about the city, is the 30-cent game about the home in whatever ways that means. This is obviously, this is the thing. In pitching this game, I think what we will pitch will be bad, because I am currently exactly 30.
Yeah, no, we're not in our 30s yet. I'm 28. So...
I've not meaningly lived enough of the life I'm proposing I write about. So this is such a focus grouped version of trying to anticipate a game style that I only do by going ultra personal.
Yeah.
But I think that's its own amusing absurdity.
I mean, and I think for this game, I'd have like Firebrand's mini games or like your Saber's episodes for, okay, we have to do the dishes, or we are going to do the garden up, or someone is having an episode in the bathroom.
Yeah. And the thing is, housemates are interesting to me. But then I also run into the problem in that I've now had a single housemate for we've lived together like 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, same with my housemates.
I
think
been,
that would be part of it.
But I don't know. We've also now been the only people we live with for 3 years. So our relationship is now just actually very stable. But also that it's a one-to-one dynamic, which is different.
Yeah, but I think that would be part of it. It's like, yeah, I'm pretty settled with you in a sort of like platonic partner sort of way.
I didn't use those words.
In a sort of platonic way. It's what I was. Yeah, whatever.
It's very Dr. Donna, I would say, our dynamic is.
Sure, yeah. And it's just like, yeah, going through the cycles of not everyday life as a sort of outsider, but having your inside community.
What I do just thinking about now, because I'm also thinking, because I said that like Swamp Creature was about, in many ways, Swamp Creature was about being unemployed and not having work but needing it. Whereas Psycho Dungeon was about being in work and that destroying you. And Psycho Dungeon in many ways was my farewell to the concept of work because I never did it. So I'm like, oh, is there maybe then something about being unfit to work? Because I think what I was thinking when I said, oh, maintaining friendships in your 30s is hard, is like,
yeah,
especially in London where everyone's an hour away, and it's that thing of like, yeah, how much you meet people and how you're always doing catch-ups. Like,
yeah, you're never caught up with anyone.
But then I wonder, is that game then really hard if I suggest that you need to be people who live apart and the things you're encountering are like, and you're only encountering each other at these separations? Maybe it's then like, I don't know. I'm not sure how interesting that is, but it's the thematic gut that maybe interests me.
Yeah.
I wonder if, like, a big difference between Psycho Dungeon and Swamp Creature and why Psycho Dungeon is the more accessible game by far. Accessible in a sense of just, like, approachable to a newcomer. It's like, Psycho Dungeon has the arc of, like, dungeon crawling. It's more video game-inspired dungeon crawling than, like, a Trad or OSR game. But, like, it has more of a thing you do, whereas Swamp Creature is far more, like, structuring scenes until like the relationship is the guiding force there. I do wonder if this game would need some kind of activity you're doing as you meet up, and that's what's kind of like giving it a bit more of an interesting arc, whether it's, and it could be saying bullshit like doing something that would let you do like gamey shit.
That's what I was thinking there. I think, okay, go with me here. You are playing as wizards who every 7 years or whatever, you meet up to do some great grand ritual. And I don't know what it is, maybe sealing the evil beneath the world or keeping the sun up or whatever. Or just making the flowers bloom. But you write letters to each other and it's like, yeah, this is what I've been doing recently. I taught a new apprentice and she's grown up and gone off and become her own wizard, and the next year it's, yeah, I wrote a new spell book and whatever. But then you come together and you do this great grand thing. But the majority of the game is like writing letters to each other and like working out this story that you are.
I think that is a very interesting game. I don't think that would work for what we've been talking about until this point, but I do actually think, yeah, that does sound like a quite cool, interesting game.
Yeah.
It does sound like maybe a more, a less board gamey person's, a person who's interested by the premise of 7-Part Pact, but isn't board gamey enough to...
Yep.
Is that why? And am I describing anyone on this podcast, Chloe?
Couldn't possibly say.
I'm in a game of 7-Part Pact right now. Maybe when I've played more, I'll end up talking about that on the pod. We've gone long.
Yeah, I'm happy with it. Which wizard are you, Kayla? Don't try to get off the topic.
Oh, I'm playing the Necromancer, and my character is a woman who has essentially disguised herself as her dead lover because she's handling grief so well.
So well.
It's fun because my boyfriend is also in the game, and I'm just like, babe, I did promise if you died, I'd handle this better. I'd not handle it too well. Like, I don't want to make you think I'm, like, callous, but, like, you know, I wouldn't sleep in bed with your skull.
I wouldn't change my name to Lobby.
Okay.
Thank you for
listening to Game Soup. See everyone next week.